couple of years ago, we would talk to Keith Law, and they were the laughing stock of minor league baseball, their farm system in disarray. But things have changed, and we'll get an update on the Phillies farm system because they really are relying on this working for them, Keith, as the Phillies did a good job of getting rid of some guys and restocking what was a terrible farm system under Ruben Amaro Jr., right? I mean, they've done a good job the last 2 years of really replenishing what was a dismal minor league system.
I think that's fair. I think under Amaro, obviously we talked about him, he did a lot wrong, but the idea of gutting your farm system to make the big league club better when you're sort of at the end of a run of contention is not necessarily a bad one. I think he kind of held on a little too long, thinking that this team was competitive, long past the point when it was competitive. And finally, in his last couple months there, probably at ownership's direction, decided to start to turn it over and traded Cole Hamels, really traded a number of veteran pieces who weren't going to come back. And now under Matt Klentak, I think they've done a better job of refocusing in the draft, aiming for different types of players, changing their player development philosophies to try to get more out of what was already in the system. And they're in the top half right now. I think if they'd had a better year collectively, if their top prospects had been better in 2016, I probably would have ended up with them in the top 10. It's just that a couple of the key guys took steps backwards, and I thought that their value of some of the key guys, like the Nick Williams of the system, went down, which just held them out of that uppermost tier.
Yeah, Keith Law, ESPN senior baseball writer, he has his top 100, and 3 Phillies land on that top 100. J.P. Crawford, number 5, Mickey Moniak, number 30, and Jorge Alfaro, number 45. And Crawford was a guy, do you think he took some steps back from 2016 to entering this year?
I would say he failed to take the step forward that I thought he would take, though a lot of scouts thought he would take. I'm sure that the Phillies thought he would take. This is a guy who's always struggled a little bit with each promotion, so that wasn't necessarily a surprise when he struggled when he first got to AAA. He never totally came out of it, and some of the scouts I talked to felt like he might have been sulking a little bit, that he wasn't started in AAA, that he didn't get to the big leagues. It also sounds like he's trying to hit for a little more power than he should be. He's a contact guy, really good eye, really good approach at the plate. I would much rather see him just accept he's not going to be a power hitter, just spray the whole field with line drives, plenty of power for doubles and triples, and just get on base all the time. That's going to make him a good player. It's going to make him a very well-paid player given time. It just seems like he needed to make some adjustments last year that didn't happen, and that just holds his value down. When he had a chance to take a step forward, maybe get to the big leagues in September, maybe establish himself as a star sooner, so.
Keith Law's with us. Mickey Moniak, number 1 overall pick. I don't know that last year's draft had a consensus overall number 1, but since he was drafted, has he, made people lean one way or another on his future?
No, I think the reports I got back from folks who saw him in the Gulf Coast League last year, and I only saw him before the draft, not after, but the folks I talked to who saw him in the Gulf Coast League said he was exactly what he was supposed to be. He showed a good approach. It's a good swing. It's a swing for contact rather than for power. He played great in center. They're all convinced he's going to stay in center field. He's going to be a good defensive center fielder. He runs well, above average speed, good instincts, seemed like a good kid. Everything that he was supposed to be was there. What has happened since then, I had a couple of guys end up moving ahead of him from the draft rankings to the top 100 because Nick Senzel, who went second overall, went right out to full season ball and started raking right away. And he's a good defensive third baseman, so probably has a little higher floor and just has shown that he's a better, I think, than anybody thought he was, maybe except the Reds, who took him back when he was at the University of Tennessee.
Alfaro's a guy that they got in that Hamels deal, and we've been hearing a little bit about him. He's had some injury issues, but you ranked him 45. Is this the year that you anticipate that maybe we see him at the big league level?
We really should. Now, he was hurt when they traded for him, so he really didn't play for them at all in 2015. In 2016, he got most of the season in, and the consensus was he got better behind the plate, too. This is a kid who was just blessed with an 80 arm. 80 is the top grade we give in scouting, an 8 or an 80 arm, and 80 power. It's there for him to be maybe a 5 or a 6 hitter because he's never going to be an on-base guy. He can be an impact bat and really help you behind the plate. But when he was with Texas especially, he just never put in the work on the catching side, receiving, framing, game calling. the harder stuff. And it's a broad consensus that he did more of that last year. He caught better. He worked hard. Sounds like he's in a position where even at the time they traded him, I think we talked about the possibility he'd just go to right field and they'd say, just go out there and hit. Well, now he looks like he's actually going to add some value on both sides of the ball. I wish he would draw a walk more than once every 2 weeks. But if you hit 20-something homers, play good defense, shut down the running game, you're going to be a really good big league asset.
Hey, Keith, are there guys in the Phillies system who made the top 100 last year that are no longer on that top 100 list?
That's Nick Williams. Nick Williams and Mark Appel, I think, was on the list last year also. Now, Appel got hurt, and he only made about 8 or so appearances last year, and he didn't throw that well. Now, whether he just wasn't that good or he was pitching hurt, I don't know, but it's clearly hurt his value in the eyes of the industry, and he's got to come back from surgery to remove bone chips from his elbow, and let's see where the stuff is after the operation. In Williams' case, it's a little more serious. This is a guy who had a really impatient approach at the plate. I would even say an immature approach at the plate. Had a nice little run right before the Phillies acquired him. But since then, in a year and about 6 weeks of baseball, he's reverted just back to the same over-aggressive, undisciplined hitter that he had before. And you're really just betting on a decent athlete with good bat speed, but who now with 4.5 years in the minor leagues has just not shown any real advancement in his ability to hit, his ability to work the count, pick up spin, draw a walk every once in a while. It's just not there. And, he was benched a couple of times, too, for not running out ground balls. So if the kid's not making adjustments and isn't really showing the kind of work ethic that he's going to need to make adjustments, there's no faster way for a prospect to kill his value, not just in my eyes, but in what other scouts say about him and what they might be willing to give up in a trade that involved him coming back.
So who are some of the non-top 100 guys you like in the Philly system and who might be able to help the big club?
I think there's a lot of guys in their system who project as at least big league players. They're going to play in the big leagues. They might be average regulars. But the top 100 is mostly guys who I think have a chance to be stars. Dylan Cousins and Rhys Hoskins both had huge years for Reading last year. I like Hoskins a little better because I think he's a better pure hitter. Cousins has otherworldly power, though, and a pretty big arm. If he could just be capable in right field, he's going to play every day for somebody. He needs some work against left-handed pitching. That's probably the biggest knock on his game right now. Hoskins, the biggest knock is he's a first baseman. And he's not overly big, but he did have huge power last year. If he could hit for average like he has his whole career, hit 20 homers, play good defense at first, he's going to be fine. You'll see Scott Kingery at second base for them probably within a year or so. Roman Quinn got to the big leagues last year. He is a big leaguer. It's 80 speed. He might be Billy Hamilton light. That guy's just got to stay healthy. I don't think he's played 100 games in pro season of his career yet because he's constantly hurt. And that's kind of a common refrain of guys in their system. It's the guy's got ability, but he doesn't play enough. Or the guy is healthy all the time, but there's some significant thing lacking in his game. Cousins with left-handers, Williams with lack of plate discipline. You got to go much further down in the system, especially some of their Latin American guys who have a lot more upside and don't seem to have the same kind of flaws in their game. But I don't rank them as high because, by and large, they're 4 or 5 years away. And there's just more risk in trying to project out the future of a kid who's maybe only played in the Gulf Coast League or the New York Penn League so far.
Keith Law's with us, ESPN.com. Of course, his top 100. Check out your prospects from your favorite team. And, of course, the Phillies farm system, I think he had ranked like 13th overall, right outside the top 10. A couple guys, too, like Jake Thompson. He made it up to the majors. I think most people think that he will now remain there. You got Jared Eichhoff, who came here 2 years ago. He's kind of solidified his spot. Aaron Nola, it looks like after the elbow problems, he should be good. So there's a lot of guys that you've had in your rankings the last couple of years who are already up there in Philadelphia.
Oh, no question. Michael Franco was on my list 1 year before he got promoted. Eichhoff, I should point out, too, never ranked. If you go back to what I wrote about him at the time of the Hamels deal, it was not that positive. And then even the Phillies people have said they did not know at the time they acquired him that his curveball was going to be as good as it was. He just didn't throw it that much when he was in the Rangers system. And when the Phillies got him and saw him, said, throw that more. It's clearly a good pitch, and obviously it's been a big part of his effectiveness in the big leagues so far. So they've had guys come through, get to the big leagues, and establish that they're going to have some value for them. And the way that these farm system rankings work, just because I have to draw a line somewhere, only consider guys who are still rookie eligible. So if you graduated a bunch of players recently, that tends to hurt your standing.
Keith, I want to ask you about a move the Phillies made this offseason. Did you like the Odubel Herrera deal?
I did. I think it's good value, certainly for what he's been so far. If you think he can just hold what he was last year and the year before, he had two pretty similar seasons, then they clearly got good value financially. He's going to be worth more than what they're paying him. The one thing that surprised me was there've been a lot of whispers last year, going into last season, that the Phillies weren't thrilled with his work ethic, that maybe he'd been slacking a little bit, not taking instruction as well as he had in the past, and that they were concerned that it was limiting his growth, and that he might be somebody they'd be exploring a large deal for, you getting a Chris Sale or Adam Eaton type return. Then they turn around and signed him to the contract. You could still trade a guy. It might actually make him more attractive with a contract like that. But if they're making that kind of financial investment in him, it just made me wonder were those rumors wrong, misplaced, overstated, because I can't see a team signing a player, even to a team-friendly contract like that, if they had any real doubts about his character.
Hey, Keith, what you think of the Saunders deal? Do you like him as a fit behind Franco? Because a lot of people were concerned that Franco wasn't getting enough protection. Did you like how the investment they made in a guy like Saunders?
I don't believe in lineup protection at all. All the available research has said it doesn't exist. I think Franco's big problem is he's not selective enough at the plate. And this has been an issue for him going back to Double-A, when you'd see him crush something because he's got unbelievably strong hands. But you would also see him swinging at a lot of pitches that were just out of the strike zone that I think he personally believes he can hit. And I understand that. Just in terms of just hand and wrist strength, he's probably among the top 10% in baseball. But you can't hit everything, and there are some pitches you have to let go by even if you think you can hit them. So, Franco's got an adjustment to make in his approach regardless of who hits behind him. Saunders, I think, is a really good fourth outfielder, platoon guy. He's had platoon issues basically his whole career. If you've got the right right-handed hitting caddy for him, you can absolutely get value out of him. And I think he's a guy who'll have some trade value for them in July also, which has got to be the point of a lot of these one-year deals. How do we acquire a player, get a couple good months out of him, flip him for another younger player, even if it's an A-ball pitcher your scouts like, that helps the club more going forward.
Yeah, it seems like they got a glutton of platoon guys, Altair and Saunders, and they brought in Kendrick, and they got Goodell. We'll see if he hangs around. Roman Quinn, what are they going to do with him? We talked about Nick Williams. Their spring training outfield should be a very interesting competition.
I agree, and one thing too is they got to play Goodell. He was a Rule 5 pick. He barely got to play last year, especially in August and September. There was no excuse for him to be on the bench as much as he was. He should have played close to every day. Even if you don't think he's that good, if you're really questions about his ability, he has to be on your roster anyway, according to the Rule 5 rules. So you must essentially give him the trial, give him the extended opportunity and see what he is. And the way they didn't do that was really confusing to me because I thought taking him made sense. He was given $2 million out of high school by the Rays. He does have tools. He has some idea of what he's doing at the plate. This is not some hopeless case in terms of plate discipline. And I would love to see them give him an opportunity in the first half of this season before some of the prospects come. Just see what he is. And if you think he's not any good, fine. But you've got to actually give him an opportunity to play to make that decision based on real data. And if it means first, he's played a lot and he stinks, he sent him to AAA. Okay, well, at least you tried. You found out what he was.
And also, with Keith Law's with us, Jeremy Hellickson, Nola, Eichhoff, they traded for Buchholz, Velasquez, Jake Thompson, Zach Eflin was up last year. They're going to have a lot of young guys battling for only 5 spots in that rotation, too. So there's another area that they created a lot of competition.
And I like it because you don't know how healthy Nola is. You don't know if he's going to be as good as he was, and you don't know how much he's going to be able to pitch. Velasquez gets hurt every year. He might have the most upside of anybody. But he's never good I wouldn't bank on him for more than about 20 starts. You get more than that, great. But at least make sure you have other options available so that you're not scrambling to cover his innings. And maybe that means somebody like Eflin, who's probably one of the lesser options of the ones you just rattled off. Maybe he starts in the bullpen. He's a long man. He's handling some 6th and 7th innings for you. But then he's on the big league staff, getting some experience so that there will be there's always an opening in the rotation, right? You can't get through a whole season with 5 starters. So at least this way you're kind of giving him a little apprenticeship that when he or Jake Thompson, somebody like that, has to slide into a big league spot, at least they've faced big league hitters before. And I have a feeling that's how they're trying to build this staff is we know we can't put all these guys in the rotation now, but let's set ourselves up so that inevitably when there's an injury, even somebody has to skip one start. We have options readily available to us who we know are major league ready, as opposed to calling up some guy from Double-A who's shell-shocked or otherwise not ready to contribute.
We saw a lot of that over the last couple of years. Hopefully those days are over. Keith Law, ESPN.com. Check out his top 100 prospects and also organizational prospects rankings as well. Keith, we always enjoy catching up with you, pal.
Yep, my pleasure.